for joining us once again to our show that is called Real Shame, where we watch movies off our list of shame or movie blind spots. Basically, movies we haven't seen, probably should have seen, but now we're watching them. I am one of your hosts. My name is Adam.
My name is Andy.
I was just thinking of your Welcome to Earth or Welcome Humans thing you did a couple episodes ago. Earlier in the week, we talked about a Paul Newman and Robert Redford movie, their first movie together, which was called Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, which we both really liked. And you decided to pair that up with another outing of them together, and that's going to be?
I did. The Sting. Johnny Hooker is a small-time grifter in Joliet, Illinois, whose partner Luther is killed after they steal money from big-time crime boss Doyle Lonigan. Johnny makes his way to Chicago and teams up with Henry Gondorff, and the two of them aim to avenge Luther by taking an even bigger chunk of Doyle's money in The Sting.
He's waiting for you in the card room.
Let him wait. Just worry about your end, kid.
If we ever get to it.
So The Sting came out Christmas Day, 1973. Merry Christmas, everybody. It was, again, directed by George Roy Hill, same guy that directed Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, obviously also starring Newman and Redford, as we mentioned. But it was not written by William Goldman. It was written by a guy named David S. Ward. Now, we've been talking about the Fast and Furious movies recently because both of us have been watching those. Interestingly enough, the screenplay of The Sting was discovered by Rob Cohen, who directed the very first Fast and the Furious movie. Rob Cohen got his start in Hollywood as a reader of scripts, and he would pass those scripts along to his boss if he felt like they were any good. And he discovered the Sting screenplay in the proverbial pile of neglected screenplays. He read it, he thought it was fantastic, he passed it on to his boss, and it became a giant hit in 1973 and won all kinds of Academy Awards. Of course, Rob Cohen went on to be a producer, and then he went on to be a director. He did Fast and Furious, he did Triple X, the first Triple X.
Xander Cage.
He most recently, I think, did the Hurricane Heist, if you saw that.
Yep.
And if you saw that, I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, so the screenplay was discovered by Rob Cohen. Stars Paul Newman as Henry Gondorff, Robert Redford is Johnny Hooker, Robert Shaw, sometimes better known as Quint from Jaws, plays Doyle Lonigan. Robert Earl Jones plays Luther Coleman.
I was going to ask you, is he any relation to...
He sure is. He's James Earl Jones' dad.
All right.
Robert Earl Jones. He's also in Sleepaway Camp, which is an amazing horror film from the early 80s. Charles Durning plays Lieutenant William Snyder. Ray Walston, who we saw in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, is Mr. Hand. Jeff Spicoli's teacher, plays J.J. Singleton. Eileen Brennan plays Billy. And Jack Kehoe, who we most recently saw in Midnight Run, who works at the bail bondsman's place with Joey Pants. He's in this movie as well. And Charles Deercop is in this movie. He played Flatnose in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
All right.
He's one of the Doyle Lonigan's henchmen in this film. So he's in both of those George Roy Hill films. So I've seen The Sting one time before. This is my second viewing of it, but you have never seen it.
Never seen it.
So now you've seen both Newman Redford, because they did not do another movie together after this. They only did the two movies together.
On top.
Was this better or worse than Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid? About the same? Terrible? Awful? Great? What was it?
So I was riding high from Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and really looking forward to The Sting because, like we said in that review, the way they come off on screen, it was fun watching them. So it was really exciting to dig into another movie where you get to see them together, right? And you get to see that chemistry and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I will say The Sting started off I was very iffy on the movie. But because the tone just seemed really weird. It seemed slapsticky and like it didn't seem. And I couldn't tell if the movie was trying to be funny or if it was just trying to play it straight and it just was like bizarre, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But once they met up again, Paul Newman, Robert Redford. Once they start figuring out what the sting's gonna be, I just jumped right on board and I was all about the movie.
Yeah.
So once we get Robert Redford out of where he starts out and with Paul Newman, I started really enjoying the movie. And then once you start seeing the sting and everything unfold, it was really cool. The other person you didn't name is Dana Sinclair, who we know from being Jack Thornton and MacGyver. Ba-da-da-da-da-ba-ba. He's basically MacGyver's boss. No?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I did not mention
And he
it.
was
You're
the
right.
FBI. He's the FBI agent.
Yeah, you're right.
Ba-na-na-na-na-ba-ba.
Sorry. What's his name?
Dana Sinclair.
Daniel?
Dana. D-A-N-A.
Dana. Sorry, Dana.
Dana Sinclair.
He's
I don't
probably
think
not
I don't think
alive.
he's
Yeah,
with us
I was
anymore.
gonna say.
But I like seeing him in this movie. So so the movie starts off. I couldn't really get a vibe for what it was going to be. It just seemed kind of goofy and it seemed almost like Newsies a little bit, just like kiddish.
Christian
and,
Bale's gonna jump out and sing.
it seemed very like a pastiche of the Depression era, and that it was going to be this lighthearted romp and not take it seriously. And then like some things happen, and you're like, "Well, this is kind of a serious movie." But ended up liking it. Not a big fan of Judge Roy Hill, like the roller coaster. George Roy Hill's direction on here. Like when Robert Redford's friend gets killed, spoiler alert, he kind of does this like weird camera zoom in on him through the window. That's kind of weird. And I hate.
I know what you're talking about.
And I hate the those title cards between the movies.
Oh, you didn't like those?
I hated them with a passion. I thought they looked
I
so stupid and cheesy and just looked like a Disneyification of a movie to me. It looked very like. And the other thing that you kind of mentioned a little bit about Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, I hated the musical score. I thought it was so cheesy and kitschy and I hated the Entertainer. Again, maybe this is my hill to die on, but we didn't get the Entertainer like 40 times like we got with Paul Simon. Or was it Paul Simon? No, it was Hall Notes.
So Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon Garfunkel.
Hall Notes stuff. Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel. But we did get the Entertainer more than once, at least twice. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, I get it. Entertainer. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-da. So, that being said, like the movie, like the latter part of it better. Not a big fan of the title cards. Not a big fan of the music.
What about the other kind of like whites and techniques that they use?
So that didn't really stand out to me. Like I don't really have a firm memory of that stuff. But that's kind of where I stood. I mean, obviously we get Newman and Redford. It's they're a little bit more goofy in this movie than they were in Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. I would have preferred another outing of them kind of like more serious, I think, and less played for laughs. But again, it's seeing them on the screen and stuff like that is just really interesting, really fascinating. And I'm a big fan of con men movies and stuff like that. Like I love The Brothers Bloom, which I can feel like gets a lot from this movie, and a lot of the con artist movies that happen later on, use this movie as a jumping off point and all that kind of stuff. So I like the movies that are derived from it. And I like this movie, but there's just some aspects I wasn't really, really keen on this time around. So your second time watching it, what'd you remember liking about it the first time, and what'd you think about it this time?
The first time I saw the movie, I thought, what's the big deal? Because I knew it won Best Picture. So this is the movie. Godfather won in 1972. Godfather Part 2 won in 1974. This is the movie that came in between those, won in 1973. And I thought, this won Best Picture? Like, I thought it was okay, but I just didn't really get the hype, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe it was a little too hyped up for me. I enjoyed it a lot more this time around. I enjoyed Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid slightly less than I have in the past, but I enjoyed this more than I did the first time that I saw it. I'm with you. I really like the con. Once he meets up with Harry Gondorf, I mean, I didn't mind the first part of the movie that you didn't like as much, but once he meets up with Harry Gondorf and they start kind of putting their heads together and planning this whole thing, I just eat it up. I love it. So there's a couple of twists in the movie, at least two that I can think of right off the top of my head.
One coming. I think I saw them both coming.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I don't remember if I guessed when I first saw the movie, but obviously seeing it this time around, I kind of knew what was up.
Let's just spoil it because I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So, spoiling it. So the big one I would say is Dana Sinclair, the FBI agent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is the big twist.
He's in on it as well.
He's in on it, yeah.
And he's not actually an FBI agent. Yeah. The other one is that the killer that's after Robert Redford is the girl.
Caught me completely by surprise.
Okay, and it probably did me whenever I first saw the movie, but I don't think that twist does anything for the movie, honestly. No. I don't think that... in fact, I think you could take out that whole hired assassin plot and you won't lose anything from the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't... Yeah,
it's very inconsequential to me.
100% agree with that. Yeah. I think that is exactly right. I think it just takes up screen time that could be used for better things. And,
right.
And like you said, the perfect example, it's inconsequential. Like, nothing comes of it.
And I think that's another big problem that I have with the movie is it takes too long to get where it's going. I think the movie could be shorter because you could take out things like that because he spends time with this woman at the diner. He ends up sleeping with her. And then finally the next day they're passing each other in an alley. You think there's a guy behind him that's going to kill him, but he ends up shooting her because she's actually the person that was going to kill him. And the reason she didn't kill him when they were sleeping together the night before is because too many people saw them together or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't amount to anything to me. It may be shocking. You're like, oh crap, that was the person that was trying to kill him because the name is like Salino or something.
Yeah,
Salerno
they call it by her
something.
last name or
whatever.
whatever.
And so you picture, some guy, and it's not, in fact. But I just don't think that twist really does anything. But the twist that the guy's not an FBI agent, he's been on it, is a lot cooler, and that does belong in the movie.
Yeah, and I think the thing is now what are we 50 years later almost?
Yeah.
You've seen so many movies that do that, right?
Right.
Like, because I think like the other movie I was thinking about is like the Ocean's 11's movie. Mm-hmm. Ocean 11 kind of, I think, follows this to a T a little bit where you kind of see the con, but the con that's laid out is not necessarily the con that happens. And then you get this bigger explanation of what actually happened. And so while watching these kind of movies, seeing movies like that, you're kind of like, I don't know if the movie's necessarily telling me the whole story that I need to see. Like, there's probably some extra stuff here. Mm-hmm. And what I was kind of doing was watching some of these scenes and being like, if this is the twist that I think it is this scene in here because it needs to be, or is it in here to kind of fool us and stuff like that? And that was the kind of game I was playing a little bit. Didn't detract from my enjoyment or anything. And I do think some of the scenes were kind of placed in there to kind of lead you down the wrong trail, but
sure. Yeah.
I think even knowing that that's going to happen, it still works.
Yeah.
And I like how it plays up because they end up getting the cop that is chasing, or the dick or whatever they call him, chasing.
He's a dick.
Yeah, he's a detective.
He's a private dick, right?
They use him to help get rid of Robert Shaw's Longin character. Mm-hmm. And I think that's smart. That's like a smart to get this other patsy in here. So you have these two guys that aren't in on everything, that are completely convinced that what they saw happen did happen, and they can kind of take that and run while these guys kind of pack up everything and do. So I think it's a smart way to kind of do that.
I think it is too. It's a great way because he could ruin the whole thing for them. And every scene that he's in with the FBI agent, it needs to be there because, they're acting for him. And then even when Robert Redford, who's in on it, he's there as well. So, I mean, it makes sense. And then the fact that Robert Shaw, or Doyle Lonigan's character, is so unconcerned because they make a point of saying he doesn't deal with the day-to-day kind of stuff. He doesn't even know what Robert Redford looks like because Robert Redford is pulling a con and he's trying to kill Robert Redford. He sent two other guys to do the dirty work, though, so he doesn't even know what he looks like. He has no idea. And to me, that's believable that he wouldn't know what this guy looks like. He just is like, okay, I got these two thugs. They're going to go try and kill this guy. They need to know what he looks like. I don't. And that's unfortunate because, obviously he could catch him a lot sooner.
And part of like what you worry about as an audience member is he going to uncover that Rob Redford was the guy that kind of stole from him in the beginning and stuff like that. So that kind of gives the movie momentum and stuff like that. I feel like that's a good one.
There's some tension there for that. I do wish at the end that it wasn't just I kind of wish, and this is just me spitballing, wishing, like, oh, I wish they would have done this. I kind of wish there was something right at the end that, like, oh, there, it's a race against time, or there's something that's about to foil their plans, but it basically just goes off without a hitch, which is still cool because, again, there's still that twist that, oh, they're not really dead.
Well,
and this
then that's
is really
what
an FBI agent.
Yeah. And that's what you think's going to happen because you see, the FBI agent gaining momentum. You think that he's going to spoil right before the end, but even though that was part of the plan. But I totally get that.
So maybe it's just because I've seen it before, and so I was like, oh, well, I know. But they just kind of all shake hands and they're like, all right, we're done. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's anticlimactic because it's still a great movie, but it felt a little bit, everything I say is going to sound bad. I don't want to say underwhelming because I think it's an awesome movie and it's an awesome con that they pull. But it basically just at the end, they're just like, all right, well done. Okay, bye.
It just kind of like fizzles out.
Yeah. So I wish it had a little more oomph. If this movie were made today, it would be super fast paced. Yeah, it'd be a lot more cutting. There'd be a lot. It's much more slowly paced than movies that modern audiences are used to. But it's a great movie. I don't mind the soundtrack personally. The Scott Joplin music.
I don't like it. I mean, I like Scott. I don't know. I like Scott Joplin, right?
Yeah.
But I just feel like the music just. Like, I think it's like how you feel about the Burt Bacharach stuff with Butch Cassidy. It just feels like it's not. Doesn't match the tone of the movie in my eyes, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say one thing, and I don't remember what I was gonna say. So it's not that important.
While you're thinking of it or jogging your memory, I like the title cards. I kind of like all that. So the movie takes place in the 1930s, and they do use 1930s kind of techniques at the beginning. The Universal logo is the old-timey Universal logo that they used back then. They do use a lot of white, so like the scene transitions. They do the same thing in Star Wars, honestly. Yeah. But they use there's matte paintings in several scenes, which I love that kind of thing to make Chicago look, old-timey Chicago, 1930s Chicago, but the horizon extends and you see all these buildings, which are, again, matte paintings. But I think it looks cool. I love that kind of stuff. I like the soundtrack. It's all basically ragtime. Scott Joplin, I know you're not a fan. One thing about this movie is that Robert Shaw walks with a limp in the movie. And I've seen Robert Shaw in more than just Jaws, but I was like, did Robert Shaw have a limp in real life? He did not, but his limp was real in this movie because apparently he injured himself playing handball. He slipped and messed up his knee, so he actually had on a leg brace while he was shooting the movie. So he does limp in the movie, and it's because he played a little too hard on the handball cart apparently. But he did not have a permanent limp.
I don't remember what I was going to say, but I do remember something. I love the card stuff too.
Oh, I do too. Yes, I love that stuff.
Again, big Magic fan and all that kind of stuff, and I love seeing the card mechanics or whatever of him kind of shuffling the deck. And I love I love that they're like that they're at the game and they're like they both know they're cheating, right? But they can't say anything because they have a bunch of normies or stools or people that they're taking advantage of around, right? Yeah. And it's just like I know what you did, and I'm gonna kill you for it. I just like that tension in that scene is just excellent.
Yeah.
And I love the way that whole plays out. Like I would see a whole movie of just that kind of stuff too. Yeah.
I absolutely would too. I love all that stuff. I love a lot of the dialogue in the film, the old-timey dialogue that they say and just kind of the terms that they use when they're talking about card cutting or playing cards or doing this and pass posting and everything's Jake and all that stuff. But yeah, the fact that they set up basically a fake racing betting place that they set up, and you've got Mr. Hand or Ray Walston back there announcing the races. Yeah, he's reading off the wire, who's winning and what are the odds or whatever, and they're just faking it and whatnot. But the card stuff on the train, I love, especially when he's got the 4 3s and Robert Shaw lays down 4 9s,
and then you're the audience,
you're like, oh no, and he's like 4 jacks, and you're like, oh,
and that guy behind him who looks like he's right out of Dick Tracy,
flat nose
is just like what.
Yeah. Or Flat Nose and Butch Cassidy.
I just remembered the thing I wanted to mention. So they con him for $500,000, but they have 30 people in on the con.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I guess they go because Robert Redford doesn't take his share. He's like, I just blow it all anyway. So I guess they could all split his whatever.
Yeah,
Because
but
presumably that would be a big take.
But that's what I'm thinking. Like, during the end, I'm just like, this seems very elaborate. It seems like you're probably paying people a lot of money to keep quiet. And it's just like, I don't know how well that money's going to go. But I guess it's $500,000 in 1920s time frame. So maybe that goes.
Oh, it'd be millions now. Yeah, it'd be quite a bit adjusted for inflation. I love the guy. His last name is Gould. He plays Kid Twist in the movie. He and Ray Walston go to paint the guy's office so that he can pose as
like
the Western Union. He replaces the picture with a picture of him and his family.
Yeah.
That is so brilliant.
Yeah.
And they make him go through the side door, and he's like, I'm having the office painting. We can't talk here, so that he doesn't stay. And then Ray Walston just leaves.
Yeah.
And they just leave like a drop cloth there because he uses the intercom. And the
They're
guy's
like, "What?"
confused. He's like, what are you talking about? But all of that setup is just... It's brilliant. Yeah, I love it.
Or the guy that does the English accent. I could do an English accent.
Yes.
Like, that's awesome. And he's putting on his little beard. He's like, just stay in the back. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then when that one guy does something, he's like, oh, he likes you. He likes you. It's great. It's seeing the con happen and all that stuff is just, it's all candy. It's all so good.
It is.
It's all Jake.
It is Jake. Everything about this movie dealing with the con is just so much fun to watch. So this movie has a sequel released in 1983, which I've never seen, but apparently it's not good. It doesn't have anybody that was involved.
Doesn't have the guy from The Honeymooners in it?
Yeah, Jackie Gleason. It's got Jackie Gleason and Mac Davis playing the Redford and Newman characters. Again, I'm not sure which one is which, but I think Jackie Gleason plays the Paul Newman character, and Mac Davis plays the Robert Redford character. But apparently it's 0% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and I know Leonard Maltin gives it 1.5 stars. But it was the sequel, right? It was the sequel. It was written by the same guy that wrote the first one, though, David S. Ward. So apparently Rob Cohen did not discover his Sting 2 sequel and say that it was the best thing since sliced bread. It was nominated for Best Actor, Robert Redford. He did not win. Jack Lemmon won that year. It was nominated for Best Cinematography by Robert Surtees, and Best Sound. Didn't win any of those, but it did win Best Original Screenplay for David S. Ward. It won Best Original Score, so it uses a lot of Scott Joplin's music, but it was arranged by Marvin Hamlish, so he got an Oscar. Obviously, Scott Joplin was long dead at this point. But although I did read that Scott Joplin's grave basically was unmarked until the year that this came out.
Oh, that's cool.
And they finally put a marker on his grave. Yeah, so he got some recognition. It won for Best Film Editing, Best Costume Design by Edith Head, famous costume designer, Best Art Direction, Best Director for George Roy Hill. He did not win for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Of course, it didn't win Best Picture, but he won Best Director this year, and it did win Best Picture, as I mentioned. It's the picture sandwich between the Godfather movies. So you got a Godfather sandwich. And the meat in the middle is the Sting. So George Roy Hill went on to do The Great Waldo Pepper with Robert Redford by himself, where he plays a pilot because George Roy Hill was a pilot. He crashes the plane into Robin Williams' house in World According to Garp, which we saw. And then in 1977, he teamed up once again with Paul Newman to do one of the best sports comedies, in my opinion, hockey comedy called Slapshot, which is a funny movie.
Never heard of it.
This movie is 94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 95% audience score. Ebert loved this one, gave it 4 stars, and Leonard Maltin gives it 3.5 stars. Leonard Maltin's one complaint was it's a little too long.
Oh, I thought it was going to be about the music.
No, he I don't think he said anything about the music.
Title cards.
Yeah, so Leonard Maltin gives this one 3.5, but he gives the sequel 1.5. So buyer beware if you watch part 2. Which again, I've never seen part 2, so
I think
can't comment.
It was either Ebert or Roper or either Siskel I was reading the review on, and one of them's like, "This is a movie."
I think Siskel.
Siskel was
he
all
liked
about
it too. Yeah.
All right. So that was the Sting, and always on these Wednesday episodes, we like to answer viewer questions, and we picked one out that is on topic for the movies we're reviewing this week, and it is, what is your favorite Robert Redford movie?
Yes.
I wanted to choose what is your favorite Paul Newman's salad dressing, but I got vetoed on that one.
Well, I haven't etten, I don't think, any of Newman's own salad dressing, so I would just be making something up if we were to do that question.
So I will say I don't know if I've ever seen The Natural.
I have not. I think we plan on doing that at some point.
And there's a couple others that I'm missing from probably his well-known movies. So
Yeah.
take what I say with a grain of salt along those lines. But I have one in my head, and I have a runner-up a little bit. Where are you with yours?
So looking through his filmography, anything. Basically anything post 2000. I mean, Spy Game, decent as I remember. Anything post 2000, and I'm not including the Marvel movies that he's in because he plays such a small role. Besides the Marvel movies, anything post 2000, I either haven't seen or I just don't think is all that great.
Yeah.
I would say his golden era is 1970s. Maybe into the 80s. I have an idea of what your favorite might be, but I obviously won't spoil it.
I think you know.
I will let you say it. But I would say if I had to pick a runner-up, the Candidate, which we did on the show, was good, but that wouldn't be my runner-up. Might be Jeremiah Johnson would be one of my favorites.
I don't think I've ever heard of that movie.
It's like a Western kind of film that he did. I think it's got a few memes surrounding it. One in particular where he kind of nods his head. I know I've used that meme. I've sent it to somebody before.
Probably me.
What would be your kind of like runner-up?
So the first movie that comes to mind, I know you're skipping over the Marvel movies, but I feel like in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, he does play the antagonist, and he does have a pretty meaty role in it, and he is also affable and likable and all that kind of stuff. So the first, I think my runner-up is Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Captain America: Winter Soldier. Okay.
Right.
I think my first place, I do like Out of Africa a lot. I do like The Horse Whisperer actually a lot, despite the fact that it's like 3 hours long. I remember that being a good film. But one stands out to me, and no, it's not 3 Days of the Condor or anything like that. It is The Hot Rock, which is another heist movie. Where it's very cool. It's got
What's
like
it called? Hot Rock?
The Hot Rock.
Oh, we're gonna have to
it's a very cool movie. Again, it's kind of a motley crew that is assembled to steal a rock, a diamond.
I'm on board already.
It's an awesome movie, and it's cool because it came out in 1972, but it was filmed while they were still constructing one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and they almost run into it with a helicopter. They're like, "Whoa!"
Cool.
But it's still like under construction. But it's a cool movie. It's even got Christopher Guest in a very small role, one of his earliest films. He's very, very young, but it's a fun, funny movie. The Hot Rock is cool, so that'd be my number one pick. Well, we'll have to do it someday on the show.
Yes, please. Yeah. Okay, my number one, I'm sure you know what it is I love hacking movies.
I knew it had something to do with shoes.
I love hacking movies. Love The Net when it came out.
Yeah,
and this is probably one of the more accurate hacking movies, and that is Sneakers with Robert Redford. That movie is like catnip to me. I just love these kind of hacking movies where you just feel like it's almost like you're seeing, it's like a heist movie almost. It is a heist movie where you get to see the processes and everything kind of come together and all that kind of stuff. So Hackers, great movie. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but I remember really, really being over the moon with Hackers, and so that's my number one pick. Obviously, there's a bunch of Robert Redford movies I need to see that might edge it out. I heard was it 3 Days in the Condor? 2 days or 3 days?
3 Days of the Condor. That's kind of a spy movie. I mean, it's good.
And then there's another one around the same time that the Russo brothers use as a jumping off point for Captain America: Winter Soldier. So I'm sure I'm gonna like those movies since I like the movie that's kind of not aping it, but kind of using that as like a jumping off point or something like that,
So Robert Redford also directed films, and I actually recently was looking through something, and Quiz Show popped up, which was a movie that he directed back in the 90s. I remember that was nominated for Best Picture. It lost to Forrest Gump.
Oh, interesting.
That year, 94. Right?
I always think Quiz Show's Sidney Lumet, but...
No, it was Robert Redford. But I was going to say, out of the movies that he's directed, and he's only directed 10... And I haven't seen Cathedrals of Culture or The Company You Keep or The Conspirator or Alliance for Lambs, but I've seen, I think, everything prior to that. Legend of Bagger Vance, I like The Horse Whisperer. I like Quiz Show. Have you seen Quiz Show?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good one. River Runs Through It.
Heard of it, never seen it.
I don't know if I've seen it either. I don't think I have seen Ordinary People. That's the first film he did. First film he directed. But I was going to say, I think a film that doesn't get enough love that he directed is the Milagro Beanfield War, which is the second film that he directed. That's a cool movie from the late 80s.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Anyway, check out The Sting. Check out Sneakers.
Oh,
check out The Hot Rock. And check out Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Check out the Bean Festival.
Yeah, the Bean Festival, Milagro Beanfield War, and Quiz Show. Yeah, so.
All right.
That's good.
Well, that's everything Robert Redford and more. So let us know what's your favorite Robert Redford movie. Maybe it's a movie we haven't seen. We can throw it on our list of movies to review if it's one or both of us hasn't seen it.
And what are some other good con movies? We're always looking for. We're always looking for some.
I love a good con movie.
Yes.
Like I picked up like movie with bank heist. It had Jason Statham in it, and I just picked up because Jason Statham and a bank robbery movie. And guess what? It was awesome. So just like I could jump on any kind of con movie, any kind of heist movie. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
So let us know. You can leave a comment down below if you're watching us YouTube, or you can shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. We also answer viewers' questions like the one we just talked about at that email address. So leave your question there. That would be appreciated. Like, subscribe, share the show, do all that social media stuff. It really does help, and we really do appreciate that. And stay tuned next week as we watch some movies from your list of shame. And we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.